WNBA All Star Weekend was a ton of fun, and I'm thinking that we should change the name of the Friday night events to the Allisha Gray All Star festivities. Or maybe the Allisha Gray Friday night events, or Allisha Gray at All Star Weekend. I don't know. We can keep workshopping the name. For now, I'm just going to give you my reaction to what was WNBA All Star Weekend. So we start with Friday night, which was the first time a player has ever won both the skills competition and the three-point contest, and that goes for both WNBA and the NBA, which actually surprised me. We've seen hardware given out for multiple events before, but not the skills and three-point contests, which is what Allisha Gray did, which is awesome. And a quick hit on each event, the skills challenge is just way more fun when the players are, trying. There's nobody messing around, shooting with the wrong hand. They actually care enough about where to go. It's amazing how these skills events, which are basically the same across both the WNBA and the NBA, like the skills contest is actually entertaining. It just takes participants that are actually wanting to participate. And then 3x3, that was cool to see, and I'm having a hard time calling it 3x3. I know that's what it's supposed to be called. That's what everybody calls it for FIBA and whatnot. It just rolls off the tongue weird for me. I always just want to say 3-on-3, but no, it's 3x3. And I didn't realize that in 3x3 for FIBA, there's no check up top. They just take it right out of the net and clear it to the three-point line. So it's just non-stop action, which is absolutely crazy. Any 3-on-3 I ever played, whether it was organized like in a Gus Macker type of a thing, just a pickup game, or even just watching like the big three, right? Which I admittedly don't do a ton of, but I have watched it, and like you always check up top and it gives you a breath that you can take between buckets, and they just keep going. Also, shout out to Cody McMahon, who I don't believe that's going to be the last time that you see her in an all-star WNBA format of any kind. The three-point contest is great. It's the marquee event from any all-star weekend for both the men and the women. Seeing Jonquel Jones in the final is just such a cool thing about the game of basketball to me. She's like the starting center for a title contender, and she's not just in the three-point contest, she's in the finals, and it's not a fluke. She can actually really shoot it from deep. Now, I like that about the three-point contest. If you can shoot, you can shoot. It doesn't matter what position you play. And she can shoot. But she couldn't outshoot Allisha Gray in the final round. Did I mention that Allisha Gray is awesome? Which brings us to the game, and this is where I've got a little bit more in my notes. And it was a super competitive first half. Just a 2-point game at the break. And in that first half, it seemed like Caitlin Clark never came out for the WNBA side, and also couldn't hit water from a boat. She did have 6 dimes, and it was fun to see her lead the break with that kind of talent around her. The shot was not falling, to say the least. Angel Reese had 7 rebounds in 3 minutes at halftime, which is basically just right, I guess. Allisha Gray, once again, continued her weekend through leading them in scoring off the bench at halftime. And at that point, I was ready for her to just come out and get MVP to cap off the best All-Star weekend a player has ever had. But that wasn't quite meant to be. Still awesome, though. On the Team USA side, it was the Stewie and Asia show, and they seemed to run quite a bit through Taurasi, which was interesting to me. I wondered while watching it if that was how they're actually planning to play in the Olympics at all. It felt a lot more like playing into her home crowd on the big stage. And before the diehards come after me in the comments, I am certainly not saying that Diana Taurasi isn't amazing. She has been for like 2 decades. I simply didn't expect her to be as primary as she was for Team USA with some of the other guard options that they have on the roster. For example, I was super excited for, in this game, to see Caitlin Clark versus Sabrina Ionescu surrounded by all-stars. And that didn't really happen in the first half. While everything ran through Clark on one side, I went long stretches not even realizing Sabrina was on the floor during the handful of minutes that she got. I believe it was like 9 in the first half. But I still felt like they were just going to come out and kind of run away with the second half. I don't know why. that's just what I was feeling heading into the second half, which included a wardrobe change on the WNBA side, which I'm not sure I've seen before, but was apparently a good call because they came out on fire. Diana Taurasi wasn't out there, which kind of confirmed my suspicions a bit. I think she only played like 7 minutes total in the second half. It was Alyssa Thomas who got the second half start, and it only took about 3 minutes for Caitlin Clark to drop 3 more assists and set a rookie record in the All-Star game. She would later end with 10, which was 1 shy of the All-Star game record, and most telling, I think, and the thing that I took away from this is that she only had 2 turnovers, and her first didn't come until the fourth quarter. And one of them was when they were basically like dribbling out a possession at the end of the clock, and she kind of tossed a wonky pass. And turnovers have been a big criticism on Clark's game. And despite this game flow being easily as fast, if not faster, than what the Indiana Fever actually play, when surrounded by the best talent and not seeing 2 or 3 defenders constantly, she cut mistakes down too. And to me, I only bring it up because I feel like that could be a big, small thing for her heading into the second half of the season. Like, if she goes on a second half tear, and especially if the turnovers start coming down, you might be able to point back to this as like a confidence and experience booster. A catalyst, if you will. Or maybe it just didn't hurt that she had all-stars on the receiving end of her passes and not some of her Fever teammates who social media will be quick to tell you don't always have the surest hands in the world. But she did have a couple teammates out there, shout out to Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell. And now we've reached the point of the video where I have to point out that people are going to be annoyed that she gets talked about a lot, especially since she shot the ball poorly. But if you watched the game from an unbiased perspective, you saw how dynamic she was as a playmaker and how everything ran through her, even when sharing the floor with the best of the best in the league. She still holds gravity that's just different, and we're only seeing the start of it. So that was cool to witness, like, the birth of Caitlin Clark in the All-Star game, because I'm going to go out on a limb and say it won't be the last. Now, Arike Ogunbowale had the best bag among the best players in the league. She was ridiculous in the second half, and I know she does this in the regular season, but her team is so bad that it was a great reminder that she's still her, even when surrounded by the best players in the league, and she set a record for scoring with 34 in the All-Star game, and all 34 of those came in the second half. It was crazy. But for me, her being a little 5'8" jitterbug who breaks you down, shoots off the dribble, gets to her step back, I love that. I'm a short dude, and this is the style of basketball that I played and gravitate toward because I idolized Allen Iverson growing up, and she gives me a little bit of that feeling when I watch her. For the record, I was not nearly as talented, just modeled my game that way. Selfishly, I also loved seeing Kelsey Mitchell, who I think of similarly, go off a little bit in the third quarter and hit that third quarter buzzer beater too, because I've been a fan of her for a long time. And I feel as though I have to mention Nneka Ogwumike, who didn't shoot that much, but couldn't miss when she did. And of course, Angel Reese got a double-double and was the first rookie to do that, and that's about as fitting to an All-Star game as you could have imagined her having. And while I'm sure as a result, we're going to see they should have been on Team USA because they just beat them head-to-head, but I'm also not worried about Team USA. They lost to the WNBA All Stars a few years ago and still won gold. Ironically, Ogunbowale was MVP that time too. Talk about somebody who should probably have been on the team. But they're going to gel, and they're going to have more than enough talent to bring home another gold. Now, they might wish they had some of the talent that did get left off the team, but then you have to go into like, well, who would you take off to put somebody on? And I'm just not here for that discussion, at least not in this video. Stewie was amazing. Asia was Asia. Brittney Griner hit an all-star milestone of 100 points in all-star games, which has only been done a handful of times. And if anything, it's the guard play that I think they need to figure out a bit. And there's plenty of talent to do that with, especially after they have more than like 2 practices together. To tie a bow on the weekend, I'm just going to say it, WNBA All Star Weekend is better than the NBA's because the players actually try. They're still having fun, but they care about competing in all the events. And Team USA added another layer to that, but I just enjoyed a fun, competitive basketball game, and it made me wish we'd see it on the NBA side too. There's a way to do it, and it looks like what the WNBA is doing. My question for you in the comments is, what was more impressive to you? Allisha Gray winning both the skills competition and the three-point contest, or Arike Ogunbowale's 34 points in the second half and All-Star Game MVP? And while you're down there, like the video so that YouTube knows it doesn't suck, and subscribe to the channel to let me know that you want me to keep making more of them.